His reverie was broken by Eliana's sharp voice. About doggone time. He turned to meet her indignant glare. We are not waiting for you next time, she warned with heavy emphasis on each word. You're not the only one with a life, you know. You can't keep us on standby like we're your subjects. Or did your obscure claim to the throne suddenly start to go to your head? First of all, I wasn't keeping you on standby. Xaiden responded coolly. If you guys want to explore without me or go do your own thing, be my guest. He shrugged and returned her glare as he continued. Complain as much as you want, but I bet you're counting on that same obscure claim as your get-out-of-jail-free card, if you ever get caught. Easy guys, let's not waste tea time arguing. Yuan cut in softly, his hand shaking a bit as he waved it between Eliana and Xaiden, who maintained their stare down despite the interruption. E.T. is right, Jax added calmly, then tapping Eliana's shoulder lightly, he continued. Come on Eli, let it go. You know how focused he can get. I already gave him an earful, so let's just move on. Eliana's gaze wavered momentarily before she huffed, whatever. She picked up her backpack, stuffing a worn book back inside, then added sarcastically with a half bow and curtsy, after you, your majesty. Xaiden scoffed but let it slide for Jax's sake. He'd been the one to bring Eliana into the fold despite Xaiden's reservations at the time. She's the daughter of the school headmaster after all. But Jax pointed out Xaiden's own unlikely background and insisted that she would never tell on them and needed the escape as much as they did. It's hard to imagine Little Miss Perfect needing refuge. Rather, the opposite would seem more likely, but she continued to show up each day after school. More importantly, she provided them all with a perfect cover at school and home with her excuse of study group meetings and short tutoring lessons that helped them all get their grades up a bit. Still, Xaiden couldn't quite shake this deeply uneasy feeling around her. We're covering the west sector today, right? Xaiden asked as he picked up his own pack and started off along the carefully yet discreetly marked path towards their makeshift fort. Ignoring the lackluster grunts of agreement, he continued on contentedly. He wasn't surprised that the others still waited for him at the entrance rather than at the fort deeper in the Forbidden Lands. Even after the years they've spent in these woods, they've always kept one foot out the door, ready to bolt back to the fence and into reality if things ever went sideways. It wasn't like that for Xaiden. For him, this was his world. It meant freedom and the ability to create his own story apart from the legacy that had been weighing so heavily on him. He was already considered a stain on the Salus name, so why bother trying to appease them? The moment he stepped foot into this land, he gave up on that life entirely. If they were caught, yes, he could escape public punishment to protect Archon Aurelian's image and the Salus legacy, but it would just underline a fate he had already accepted. He was never going to be truly considered one of them, and they'd much rather he stay out of sight and out of mind. I worked on the map a bit more last night. Yuan broke the silence, pulling his bag around so he could reach inside as he walked. Based on my calculations, this next sector should be the border of the grounds on the opposite side. I expect we'll run into the fence again. Xaiden smiled and nodded, happy that Yuan was getting more comfortable speaking up. Yuan was the final addition to their crew after Xaiden stepped in to stop some childish name-calling that seemed to have gone much further a time or two before. Xaiden took him under his wing from then on, and he's quickly become a valuable member of the team. Great work, Yuan. Eliana immediately settled into her little nook when they arrived at the base and pulled out the worn book from earlier. Early on, she'd claimed the hammock strung across 2 trees with a line run for netting to keep the bugs out, leaving the rest of them to the sleeping bags and camp chairs strewn about in the tent in the center if they wanted to nap or rest. The tarp above her provided shade and protection from afternoon storms, and she kept a surprisingly cute blanket that she curls up under as soon as she arrives. If it wasn't for the cover story she's got going on for us, she'd really be dead weight, Xaiden thought, shaking his head. This place is nothing but a personal library for her and a quiet place to read. It's safe to say Eliana was not a fan of Xaiden's web novel. She much preferred reading books from previous eras and seemed to put up with all the discomforts of the woods just so she could read the random books they found out here. Xaiden liked reading too, so they often clashed over who got to read the new discoveries first. She'd taken more interest in joining their explorations after they all agreed to finders keepers for the random junk they came across in the woods. You're not coming today, Eli? Jax asked as he cleared some leaves off the table they'd been using to plan their routes. She shook her head curtly and tapped her implant, probably turning on the classical piano playlist Jax had told her about.